Hey guys, Bella here. In this video, I'm going to be reviewing this book, Quit Like a Woman by Whitaker. And this book is probably the best book that I've read in 2020 so far. So this is at the top of my list on quit lit, or books about stopping drinking or moderating or drinking less alcohol or just questioning your relationship with alcohol in general. And 2020 has certainly been the year for me to do that. You might have seen some of my past videos about doing a 30-day sobriety challenge. I only made it to day 23 and I felt like I just completely fell off the wagon, and I began to drink a lot more and go back to my old drinking habits. So I'm trying to revisit some of these books and pick out some themes that I learned that might help me in my sobriety journey. Whitaker is really anything but traditional. She is not really big into the 12 steps, and she actually goes into saying that a lot of people feel like the 12 steps is the only way to get sober, and this is sort of the old school of thought when it comes to sobriety, and I technically agree with her. I know this sobriety is different for everyone, and that a lot of people use the 12 steps to get sober successfully, but I also found myself gravitating towards it not really feeling the right way for me. And there's a lot of feminist perspectives in this book about how women are basically told that the reason that we become alcoholics according to 12-step program is that we are too self-centered, but most women are anything but that. Women are very giving and just natural caregivers and more empathetic. So I really resonated with a lot of this book. Now, instead of doing some kind of boring book review, I'm just going to go through the book and read some of the things that I highlighted and touch on those points, because I don't think it's necessary to rehash the whole entire book. But with that being said, I am going to give you the greater points of the book without you actually having to read it, according to me. So the first thing that I really resonated with was this quote: "The body takes 3 to 4 days to fully remove alcohol from the system. So if we are imbibing once or twice a week, we never fully reap the benefits of sound sleep. Even moderate alcohol use puts us in an almost constant state of sleep deprivation." Now, I was one of those people who was in the school of thought that thought alcohol helped me sleep better, until I read like literally every single book about stopping drinking says that that actually disrupts your sleep. Alcohol makes us sleep worse. We actually have more restless sleep, and we tend to not sleep through the night and not get any deep sleep. And typically for me, on a night of drinking, I wake up like hella early, like 5 or 6 in the morning, just totally thirsty because I'm dehydrated. So I thought that was kind of an interesting point. Another thing to consider is that approximately half of all sexual assaults involve alcohol consumption. This is kind of terrifying, especially as a woman, to think about the many times that I've probably put myself in danger, and how it's just expected of us to get completely drunk and then find our way homes. As women, we are not really safe when we're doing this. Even when we have other female friends with us, it's kind of like, I don't know, you're taking a risk that isn't really necessary, and it doesn't have any reward. So sometimes when we take a risk, it has a reward, right? And this is one of those things with, what is the reward? Getting drunk, feeling stupid, doing things that we regret. So I think that is something to take into consideration, that a lot of college campus rape involves alcohol. And it's not necessarily that one person's drunk and one person's sober, but some of the times when those blurred lines occur, 2 people are very drunk and they can't consent. So I think that that's kind of interesting to think about the positions that people put themselves in when they drink alcohol. Another point that she touched on in the book is how alcohol and branding are something that is constantly in the forefront of our minds, because we're always seeing ads for alcohol, normalizing alcohol consumption as a reward, as a end of the day treat, or something that successful people do. I know if you ever watch Mad Men, you see they're constantly taking drinks there, and this is the same for a lot of shows. Olivia Pope on Scandal is always drinking her giant glass of wine, and it's just something that we see as a lot of successful people doing this, and it's a branding thing for sure. I know even today, I was going on my morning walk this morning, and I was walking and I see this giant truck, and it has a Corona on it, and it says something like "find your piece of paradise" or something, basically saying if you drink this drink then you'll be in paradise. Like, how crazy is that? Like, this is North Alabama, this is not paradise. So she actually has a whole chapter on branding and how alcohol and tobacco have a lot of similarities, and I thought that was kind of interesting. I have never seen those comparisons made before, but I'm sure that it's all too true that alcohol has taken a lot of things from the playbook of tobacco in terms of normalizing the effects, and especially when you consider how many people die from alcohol every single year, liver disease, actually just overdosing on alcohol, which is actually a common thing. I actually had a teacher who overdosed from alcohol, and it was really sad. I know a lot of people are, thinking that they don't have a problem, and your problem may not be that significant right now, but the thing about alcohol is that it constantly takes more for us to get drunk. I know in the beginning I could have like 2 or 3 drinks and I would be pretty fine, and now it's like I have like 7 or 8, sometimes 9 or 10 drinks before I really start to feel drunk. So that is something to consider, is how alcohol really takes hold of our lives in a completely negative way, not in a way that is rewarding whatsoever. Here's another part that Holly touches on. She said when she was trying to consider whether or not she had a drinking problem, she said, "My drinking problem, or lack thereof, was qualified by comparison to other people's drinking. It never occurred to me that people who don't have problems with drinking don't run around comparing their drinking to people who do have them. What did occur to me back then was that I would rather die than be an alcoholic." You see somebody and you see, okay, I'm right here, this other person's up here, and then this other person's down here, I'm in the middle. We constantly use these little grading yardsticks to measure ourselves in all parts of life. It's just that our human brain naturally does that. We categorize ourselves, and it's very difficult to not do that. So in terms of alcohol issues, I think that it's really common for us to be like, okay, well, yeah, maybe I'm drinking a little bit too frequently, but I'm certainly not drinking as much as so-and-so. Or, you know, my uncle, who is a really bad alcoholic, he has to drink every day at 12 o'clock, but I don't start drinking until 5 o'clock, so I'm fine. So this comparing other people's alcoholism to your own is sort of a toxic trait, honestly, because it gets us in the mindset that as long as we are not doing X behavior, then we don't necessarily have a problem. And another issue that she brings up in the book is that you shouldn't have to have a terrible problem to question your relationship with alcohol. You should just be able to question it if that's something that is becoming a negative presence in your life. And that is certainly the case for me. I know that alcohol is sort of something that a lot of people struggle with in their 20s, and that people grow out of it, and it's a partying stage, and there's all those cliches about being in college and having fun and getting to do what you want in your 20s. But at the same time, you have to realize that alcohol is not this end-all be-all to fun. There's not like some magical fun pill that you ingest when you start drinking alcohol. The fun is really from the people that you're hanging around and the activities that you're doing while you're drinking the alcohol. And the alcohol lowers your inhibitions, right? So those feelings of anxiety or stress go down, but they only go down for a little bit of amount of time, and then they come back like crazy after you finish drinking or the next day. So I think that it's really important to just kind of think about your alcohol consumption in terms of, am I comparing myself to someone else, or am I just looking at this in terms of how it affects my own life? On page 78, Holly says, "Drinking is a rite of passage that nearly everyone is expected to go through, and most of us do. About 70% of adults 18 and over in the United States drink. We are given a set of mixed messages of what is good, bad, normal, unacceptable, and worrisome." So think about this and think about when you started drinking. I know for me personally, I started drinking at a very young age. I think I started drinking heavily around age 14. And this is when I started experimenting with alcohol, going to parties where alcohol was present, and just kind of seeing it as a fun thing that we do on the weekends, right? There was never any questioning whether or not we should do this. It was just like something that you did. And as you get older, you go out to a dinner and you go to a restaurant with friends, and it's just kind of expected that everyone's going to have a drink. And suddenly you're at a party and there's alcohol. But it's just something that is sort of culturally acceptable, and it's not like really questioned ever. And I think that's kind of weird, that we just kind of do this thing to ourselves and we don't ever really think about it. And I'm sort of a person who explores things sometimes to a fault, and I just kind of started thinking about alcohol this year and thinking like, what is this doing to me? How is this helping me? Is this really going to help me reach my goals? And another point that she says here is, does alcohol negatively impact my life? And if so, should I take steps to address my relationship with it? So I don't think there's anyone who could say that alcohol positively impacted their life unless you got drunk and went and got a lottery ticket and somehow won. But I don't think that there's anyone who drinks regularly that's saying, yeah, like, yes, alcohol is helping me contribute to my goals. Alcohol is helping me become a better person all around and becoming more fit and healthy. Like, no, that's just not the case. Like, alcohol literally is bad for everyone who drinks it. Holly talks about in this book over and over again about how the term alcoholic is a really limiting term and it has a very negative connotation, and I totally agree with that. I think that term is not helpful at all. It's personally one of the reasons why I scared myself away from even using that logic or even stopping drinking, because I didn't want to believe that I was an alcoholic. And I still have that nagging feeling in the back of my gut sometimes, like, Am I an alcoholic? Does this mean that I can't drink alcohol ever? Do I have a problem that I can't control? Is my willpower somehow not as good as everyone else's? And she makes a great point that you're sort of led to believe that you're the problem, that alcohol's not the problem, right? That you're the person, you're the 1% that can't control themselves, right? You're the person who is so out of control that when you drink alcohol, you are not able to stop, when in reality alcohol is something that is an addictive substance. And so that's really frustrating, honestly. She says we are supposed to consume alcohol and enjoy it, but we're not supposed to become alcoholics. Isn't that crazy? Towards the middle of the book, Holly talks about some things that you can do to sort of set up a sober toolbox for coping. She says that when you're breaking an addiction, you're actually fixing the things that were leading you to the addiction. And because things leading you to addiction are life things, relationships, trauma, stress, anxiety, depression, bad jobs, lack of purpose, poor health, you'll need to use tools that help you fix your life problems. So she goes on to list a lot of things like meditation and yoga and self-care routines, and I totally identify with this because the times where my drinking was sort of out of control were times when I was not feeling like my best self. I was feeling purposeless. I was feeling like I was just going through the motions of life, and I was honestly really quite depressed. And I think that a lot of us use alcohol as a coping mechanism when there are so many other ways that we could take care of ourselves. But in order to take care of ourselves, we have to love ourselves. And if you're in a self-critical position where you think, I'm not where I'm supposed to be, I weigh too much, I'm not doing enough work, I'm not making enough money, I'm not enough, basically you are putting yourself in a mindset where you're going to sabotage yourself even further. We definitely have to cultivate those habits early on in our sobriety, like self-care, going to therapy, journaling, things of that nature that can help us look within ourselves. And I mean, just to be honest with you, it's not easy to look at yourself. It's not easy to say these things on camera, to talk to you about my journey. It's not easy to start over and over again. It's not easy to say, I'm back at the beginning. I started over again because guess what? I wasn't strong enough to withstand. It's definitely not easy, but I think having a community of people is really very important. This book actually touches a lot on feminist sobriety, as I said in the beginning of this video, and about basically our place in a capitalistic system as well. And I mean, I'm all for making money, but there is a point in life where you think, is this all there is? Am I just here to make money and survive? And that mindset is really what I'm sure leads a lot of people to the bar every single day after they get off of work, or to happy hour, or things of that nature. So I've really thought about this book a lot, and I thought about what it means to be a woman getting sober. And I think it's sometimes a little bit more difficult to see a woman with an alcohol problem, because women are supposed to be the ones who have it all under control. We're supposed to be the caretakers. We're not supposed to be a lush or a sloppy drunk or things like that. So when you see a woman with an alcohol problem, it's like, what is wrong with her? What is going on? And I'm sure a lot of us can relate to the fact that, like, if you have inner trauma or turmoil going on, you are led to drugs and alcohol or other things that can help you cope. Or if you just had a particularly stressful year. I mean, we're living in a freaking pandemic, and it's not easy just coping with everything and all the changes and all the parts of our life that we're never going to get back, and jobs that have been lost, and some people have lost their homes or their apartments, or had to change the way that we live. And I think that alcohol is, for me, something that I haven't quite found the place where I see it in my life. Like, I think it's bad. Like, that's pretty much all I can figure out now, is that it's bad for me. It doesn't help me, and it's something that is causing me more problems, and it's not causing me any upsides or anything good in life. Like, it's literally only causing me issues. That is Quit Like a Woman, my short little spiel on it, and hopefully everyone is having a good week. I'll try to do more book reviews or more book analysis videos, because I have read like 40 books this year, and it's sometimes harder for me to make a video about it because I don't want to feel like I'm reading the whole book to you guys, but at the same time, there's a lot of information in here, so if you only have time to watch, you know, a 15-minute video, then that's awesome. You can still get the gist of it. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Make sure to hit the thumbs up button and subscribe to this channel if you want to see more content from me. Hope that you have a great week.